Have you ever gone to start making your Christmas wreath and got irritated because all you could find was just some plain white ribbon? Well, I'm going to show you today how you can take this white ribbon and customize it to whatever theme you want to do for your holiday crafting. Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today I'm going to be playing with the new blank of the month from Artesprix. This is some Artesprix ribbon, and this is a polyester blend. Actually, it's 100% polyester. You can see that right on the ribbon there. So I'm going to be actually decorating this one up in some holiday designs to hopefully add this to a wreath when I get back from my Thanksgiving vacation. So right now I'm recording this before Thanksgiving. The video is going to be going up afterwards, and hopefully shortly after that I'll be able to share over on Instagram and all the things, the new wreath that I put up using this ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am going to be using the Artesprix ribbon, and I know I'm going to be using some of the ink from an ink pad. Haven't 100% decided on all of the rest yet, although I do have a kind of a basic idea. Now this is one of those projects, because of what you're putting it on, you kind of have to have the end result in mind, unlike what I normally do, which is seat of my pants. So what I'm going to do at this point is just kind of draw out the template. And so I'm laying out a piece of the ribbon over some white paper, and I'm just going to draw a line there. And so that I don't get anything on the ribbon, the ribbon's pretty, I'm going to go ahead and use a straight edge this time. Usually you just trace right around it, because, you know, we've got all sorts of different shapes and stuff for our blanks. This one is going to be fairly standard though. And I'm going to go just a little bit outside of that. There we go. And then line that back up on that side and do the same thing on this side with my T-ruler. Okay, and that is it for creating the template. Now, because this is a long ribbon and you can do as much or as little as you want, I'm going to basically, I think I'm going to take that and then trace it onto another piece of paper. So I've got a couple of them, and that way I'll have a template. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a design on this one, a basic design, and then copy it over onto another page. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw those lines on a second piece of paper. So I've got a second template. Now if you've got a longer sheet of paper, you may be able to do more than this, but I've just got regular copy paper, which means you don't have to have anything special for this. Okay, so that should be about what I need to, where I need to have my design. Okay, now I'm going to take out my MISTI and some stamps that I haven't got, that I don't feel have gotten enough love, and I'm going to stamp a design on there. Now, one thing I did do before doing anything is I cleaned my mat as well as possible. I've used alcohol on there, a whole lot of things, because what I'm noticing is that I am getting a little bit of that ink on my hands, and sometimes I make a mess. And it doesn't, you have to remember, unlike other kinds of crafting where you can basically cover up what you messed up on, it's a little bit more difficult to do that when you are working with the Artesprix iron-on inks, because you know what? That stuff, it stays on there. It gets baked in if you don't have it just the way you need it. Now I also need to clean this up, so I'm going to do that before I go any further. So I've got basically a clean slate to start off with. So I just rearranged all of my, or I just arranged all of the stamps that I'm going to be using for this one. This is actually from two different sets. The little gingerbread men are from Oh What Fun, so that's this one, and then the others are from Wonderful Christmas, and those are some poinsettia kind of foliage. I think I'm going to actually add this little snowflake and maybe the confetti in as well, just for a couple of little accents, because this is going to be kind of a repeating design if I do it the way I plan on it, which means I've got a lot of coloring that I need to do. So let me put in, I think I want a little snowflake there. think I'm just going to leave it with just that snowflake and not put in the confetti. I think that's going to look pretty cute. Okay, so let's go ahead and pick up all of those stamps. Okay, stick that right back down into my Misty. Now, as I mentioned, I have had some issues with getting ink on my fingers and having it go in places I don't want it. So right now, everything is clean, as I mentioned before, and I'm putting a magnet on the back of my ink pad so that I don't get my fingers in the ink as I'm stamping down, because I have noticed that that is always a possibility. And it's kind of a narrow piece there, but then again, on my regular ink pads, that kind of happens sometimes too. So I'm going to gently put this down and try to cover all of those without making a tremendous mess. I did get a little bit of the ink onto my platform top, but that should still be okay. Let's see how that one does. And the black Artesprix ink looks brown when you place it on your... when you do your inking, but when it transfers over onto the paper after you apply all of the heat, it does turn black. But I've also noticed that if you don't have enough ink down the first time around, it's not as dark of a black as you would want on your project. So okay, so, and it looks like, no, I thought for a second it shifted, but that's just the way the flowers. I do need a little bit more ink on my little gingerbread man and on those snowflakes. And sometimes when you use different sets, the stamps themselves are not necessarily as tall as each other. So that's one reason why you sometimes get different. Some stamps seem to stamp better than others. That just means that there are there's more space between the top and your paper than there are on the other ones. The other ones are kind of a thinner kind of a stamp. Okay. Still need a little bit more ink there. Okay, that is much, much better. Okay, so I'm going to take this one up and I'm going to go ahead and stamp that other one that's going to be my template. And I think I'm actually going to stamp a couple more. I'm not sure how many I'm going to use on the ribbon today, but let's go ahead and stamp out a couple more of these sheets. And I'm lining it up with that edge there. So everything, actually, since I've already got the lines drawn on this one, I need to have it with this side here. Otherwise, it's not going to go where my ribbon is, right? Let's go ahead and stamp this one again. Okay, now that I've got everything stamped out, I can start coloring my little items here. I'm going to leave most of this to stay just white. But my little characters, I am going to color those in. So I'm going to color in my little gingerbread men and all of the florals using the markers. These are the Artesprix Permanent Thermal Transfer Markers. These are the originals. And they come with a chisel tip with a fairly sharp point on the end. So that's what I'm going to use on this, and I think I'm going to try to use mostly just the chisel, the tip of it. Also, you can probably notice that this is not wanting to come out of my marker too well, and that's because I have not been storing these the way that it's recommended. It's recommended that you store your markers tip down so that the ink can flow down to the bottom and you're going to get a better result. So let's see. I think I've got another one, so let me go ahead and get that other marker. So this one is working better. So that is just a quick tip. You want to make sure that you are using the, you want to make sure that you're storing your markers with the tip down so that you can get a heavier flow of that ink when you go to color. So I got all my little gingerbread men colored in, and now I'm going to go in with some red. This is, yeah, this is the red. I'm going to see if, I don't know if this one is going to be as vibrant as I need it. Also, because I didn't have them stored properly. That is all on me. Yep, this one is not as dark as I need it either. So that's going back in there, and I'm taking out a new one. Now these are going, they will be as full of ink. The ink will flow better once they've had a chance to sit for a while. You'll also know that this little brown, yes, it is brown, gingerbread man looks kind of gray. That's not my camera. That is actually the way that the inks work. They're all going to be a lot more muted and dull when you're putting them down, but then when you transfer them with heat, they work out so much better. They brighten up, and you are going to love the way that they look. So I'm going to color in my little flowers here with this red. And I tend to, at this point, because I am still fairly new to these products, I do tend to go with, I try to go with 2 layers of the ink, because I don't know for sure how full it's going to be when it transfers. Sometimes if you don't put enough ink down, meaning this one's probably going to get another layer of brown over the top section, but if you don't use enough, it's going to be a lighter shade because not as much of the color transfers. That's why we wanted to stamp multiple times with the black. But that can also give a really pretty look too, because then you've got those little bits of white showing through, right? So I've got the red here, and then I'm going to, I think I'm going to use some yellow for the little bits in the centers. Give a little bit of a different color there. I could leave them white, but I'm going to be leaving quite a bit of this ribbon white. So let's try the yellow, and it probably isn't going to have enough color. Oh, it's actually very, very full. That is good. Okay, so the yellow is going to look fine. And one reason I'm doing the yellow before I go and finish the red is because I don't want to accidentally go over it. And if I see the color there, I hopefully won't go over it with my red. And instead, I'll just leave those yellow bits right there. And this is regular, just general copy paper, so it's possible that part of the reason that the colors look a little bit, I don't know, splotchy, not really as smooth as what we're used to with our alcohol markers, it could be partly because of the paper. And just the way that it's absorbing into the paper and drying. But for something like this, you really don't need any kind of fancy paper for this. Okay, come down here and do this poinsettia. Avoiding the little yellow, going to be yellow dots in that center. So I am going to attempt to add a little bit extra dimension on there. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but this is just by using an extra layer of that red ink. Okay, and I think for these, I do want them to be kind of the same. I'm going to add them in red as well. And I'm going to see how it does with me trying to do parts of it with additional layer and parts with not. So putting that one down with just that red up at the top to start, and then I'm going to come back in a bit and finish coloring it up. Got my green here, so I can go ahead and color up the leaves real quick while I'm waiting for that. And this one looks almost like an olivey green, but you can tell this is going to be a bright green, not an olive color green. It's just very muted because it is Sublimation ink. Okay, so those are done. Come down here and do the poinsettia. Stop recording. Okay, I'm going to come back in and add some more ink over this, the red buds. Actually, they kind of looks like the seed bits, but you know, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just coloring them red. So if what I'm doing, it works the way I expect it to, and we shall see when I get all of this heated onto my project. The part right under the edge should be a little bit darker than the rest, and we'll see if this works, because if it does, that will tell me this is an experiment, guys. I am new to coloring with these markers and understanding how they work, so every project is a little bit more education, right? And I think I want to do the tips of those in the pink. And that pink is pretty dry, so let me grab out a new one. Again, it's not where I've used them a lot, it's just where I've stored them incorrectly. So that means I have to fix that, right? So we're going to have some pink around the end there. And I think I'm going to do these little berries in pink too. And because I'm going to be doing this again, I'm going to start writing down in pencil off to the side what each one of them is, because this is going to be kind of my master. So I've got the leaves in green, and then poinsettia, red, and yellow, berries, pink, flowers, red, end of buds, which, looking at the finished product, we're going to be able to tell it anyway. And then the rest of the buds are going to be in red. Okay, so next, all I've got left really to do is finishing up my little gingerbread men. First off, this guy looks a little splotchy, so I'm going to take out my brown again. Actually, this one I don't think is the correct one. I think this is the one I was using. Yes. And fill in a little bit more. Once it's colored in, you can kind of see the splotchiness. The more even it is, the better the result is going to be on the finished product, I believe. Okay, and this guy is really light for most of his body, so I am going to color him in with another layer of that brown so that he is more of a solid color. And what's cool on this design is because it's going to be multiple pages, I can actually color some of these while I'm out of town and then iron them onto the ribbon to finish it up. I think that is actually going to be part of my holiday plan. And that way I also get to experiment a little bit more with these markers. I think that is going to be super fun. Okay, get his hand, and then I'm going to say that he is pretty much done for the gingerbread part. Now let's go with his gumdrops. I think I'm going to go with some orange. We don't have any orange on this yet. And this one is nice and solid, so I'm going and filling in the gumdrops on my little guys. Actually, that one was getting better, but it wasn't quite ready yet. Okay, I'm going to let that part dry, and while it does, I'm going to fill in the little mouths with some red. And then I'm going to go back over my gumdrops to try to make those colors a little bit more bold. I'm also going to go over these bits here. I think they're buds, and they're probably not, doesn't probably matter what color I put on there. But I'm going to go over where the black is, and this should make it a kind of a dark color, but have a little bit of a reddish tint. These are all translucent colors when you put them onto the substrate, when you bake them in. So you're going to be able to see the other colors through, so that is kind of cool. Okay, go back in with another layer of the orange. And that should make those little gumdrops a little bit more vibrant. Okay, I am going to say that that is pretty much done. Although, I think I'm going to add a few little blue dots in places just as an accent. Okay, so I am going to say that now that is going to be pretty much done. So next we need to tape our ribbon down onto our design. And I am going to make sure I've got all of the dust off of there. Let me make sure I've got enough of length. Yes, should have enough of length there. So this is only going to be like a small portion of what we can do with this. Go a little bit further and just, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and put this where it outside down. Not that it really matters which side is up and which side isn't, but I'm going to put it right about there. But before I do that, there is something there that I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is ink or if it's just, I don't know, a little piece of dirt or something that was on the paper initially, but I'm going to take myself a little piece of the tape. This is that heat resistant tape, and cover it to try to mask it off, because I don't want any crud anywhere. I don't want anything excess on there. I don't want any ink in places I don't want. And I did just clean off my mat again with some alcohol, so it should be nice and clean without any excess ink residue anywhere. So now I'm going to tape my ribbon in place. So I'm laying it right down over my image there. And this is the heat resistant tape from Artesprix. I'm going to just tape some right up here. And attach it to my design. There we go. And because this is a long, thin design like that, I am going to be using quite a bit of the tape in multiple places. You could go the entire length, but I don't really know if that is actually necessary. But I am going to make sure that I'm doing it on both of the ends there, because I do not want this to shift at all. Okay. And you also want to make sure that your ribbon is pretty much taut and smooth. We don't want it to have any wrinkles in it as you're pressing it, right? Okay, so there we go. So next we need to make our sublimation sandwich. And to do that, we need a couple of sheets of some of the protective paper. It comes in a roll like this, and this is some that I used on a previous project but didn't have any kind of transfer. A lot of times you're going to want to use new instead of using what you've already got here. So we need to have the design piece, the paper that's got all of our coloring on, facing the heat source. And for me, I've got a heat press where the heat source is going to be coming down from the top. If you've got a Cricut Easy Press, it should be about the same thing. So I'm going to turn this over. So I've got my design on top, and I've got a piece of protective paper underneath, and then I'm going to put another sheet of clean protective paper over the top of that. So I have gotten my machine up to 400 degrees, and it is now set at 90 seconds. And next, what I need to do is move this into the machine. Now, having it as a ribbon is a little bit tricky, but since everything is basically glued down, it is taped down in place, we should be good to go. So I've got my bottom protective paper, I've got my design with my ribbon attached. Now I'll put the second protective paper down, and now we're just going to close this. Now this also says medium pressure, so I think I've got this set at probably medium. I'm going to just loosen it up just a little bit, and we're going to press it down. And it doesn't feel like it's tight enough, so I am tightening that down a little bit, just till it's snug. And now there we go. So now it's going to count down, and once it reaches 0, we can take a look and see how our impression is. Okay, so this is done. Take a look. So before removing it from the machine, I think I am going to go ahead and do the teak test. Actually, I'm not going to be able to. That ribbon is a little bit, because it is hanging off the edge, it's a little bit hard for me to do it inside the machine. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead is switching the cameras. Okay, and now we're going to do that peak test. And basically, it's just going to be looking to see if it transferred down here at the bottom. Oh, that looks awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, and then we are going to take a look. Now you can see that some of it got onto this piece of paper. I cannot use this again because it has that. And then for the other, I used enough ink that there is still some ink on this one too, so I can't use it either. So those are going in the trash. If you get any ink transfer at all, do not use this again, because that little ghost image could wind up on your next project, and you don't want that. That'll mess up your project. Okay, so that is in the garbage. So let's go ahead and take a look at this pretty ribbon. Oh, that is lovely. Okay, let's go ahead and peel the rest of that off. And I'm going to remove the tape. And doesn't look like there's any ink on there, so it's possible I may be able to reuse some of the tape. This one, of course, has got some ink on there. You can see that. So this piece cannot be reused. Again, if you have any ink on any of your bits, you cannot use it again. You can't use it a second time because you can possibly have some transfer. This one has a little bit of the yellow. This one has the little arm. Okay, this one looks good, and this one looks good. So those I think I'll be able to use again on my next section of my thing here. It looks like I've got a little bit of yellow up here in the edge. I don't know where that one came from, but you know what? I think this still looks really, really, really good. And you guys can't see that bit of yellow that I'm thinking I'm seeing, but look at that ribbon. That is just lovely. I am loving this. So next, what I would wind up doing, just so that you guys know, and this is going to be the plan for the other pieces that I've already stamped out, plus I can stamp out some more. This part is just about, you know, about that 8 inches of the ribbon, and we've got 10 yards. So I can use as much of this as I want to for that, right? So what I'm planning on doing is doing another layer about here. and moving forward, using my other ones after I get them all colored up. And that's going to make it so that I can have a nice long pretty ribbon to add to my wreath when I get that done. These frayed edges at the bottom, there's a really quick and easy solution for that. You're basically going to want to trim that where you want it, and I think I do have a rotary cutter. Yes, I've got a rotary cutter, so this should work. I'm not sure how sharp this one is, and I want a straight edge so that I can make sure that it is exactly where I want it and not have any issues. You can also, of course, dovetail the end of your ribbon, right? So I'm going to line it up with my grid and then line this wood up with the grid. Make sure my straight edge is straight. This should create a 90-degree angle there. I'm just going to trim that off. Okay, so now we've got a pretty straight edge there, and I'm just going to use a lighter to light the edges to pretty much seal that up so that it doesn't fray again. And just add a little bit more heat, and this usually works on pretty much all of your ribbons. Okay, so this one is, oh my god, I love the way that turned out. That is just so pretty. And just as I was expecting, that additional layer of the ink when I was doing the markers does add a little bit of differentiation on the color. And I did the same kind of thing even with the leaves. It looks like there were some areas that had like a second layer of the green. And so now you got a little bit of a lighter green and a little bit of a darker green. So you can definitely add a little bit of dimension to your projects that way too. So that is going to finish up this project for Artesprix. I do have some more work to do in order to get that all done to go on a wreath, but I will share that finished project with you guys later on. You have a wonderful day. Be sure to check out this playlist to see some other custom projects that I've created using these wonderful Artesprix inks, and I will talk to you soon. Bye guys.